Hello aspirant, I hope you guys are doing well. We have completed historical background where we completed various acts that was issued by British government to reform the policies of India. Okay. So now we will be dealing with making up constitution and another and very much important part of the Indian constitution. So for the first time in 1934, for the first time, the concept of Constituent Assembly was introduced by Aman Rai. Assembly, okay. A person may be distracted or may be confused that not a very big leader of INC means Indian National Congress, not Mahatma Gandhi, not Jawaharlal Nehru, are not big celebrities of that time were introduced the concept of Constituent Assembly. It was first introduced by Aman Rai. Okay, he was pioneer of communist movement in India. Okay, pioneer of communist movement in India. So after that, in 1935, INC Indian National Congress for the first time officially demanded a Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution of India. Okay, in 1935, what we see, Indian National Congress demands for the first time that we have to make an Constituent Assembly so that our Constitution can be made. So it demanded for the first time in 1935. Okay, and in 1938, Jawaharlal Nehru declared Constitution must be framed without outside interference by a Constituent Assembly elected on the basis of adult franchise. Okay. So in 1938, Jawaharlal Nehru basically he is declaring that Indian Constitution will be framed and it will be framed without outside interference. We don't want any outer interference, and for that we will be having a Constituent Assembly, and the member of its Constituent Assembly will be elected on the basis of adult franchise. Okay, so on this point also done. So in 1940, August offer came to India, and according to this offer, demand for constitution was accepted. Okay, so finally by August offer, the demand for Constituent Assembly or demand for constitution was accepted. Okay, and one more important thing, that is in 1942, Sir Stafford Cripps. Sir Stafford Cripps, he was the member of the cabinet. Member of cabinet means British cabinet. Okay, Sir Stafford Cripps, he was the member of cabinet. He came to India with the draft proposal of British government on the framing of independent constitution to be adopted after the World War II. Proposal rejected by Muslim League. So what we say that in 1942, Stafford Cripps, Sir Stafford Cripps, he came to India. Stafford Cripps is nothing but a member of cabinet, British cabinet. Okay, he came to India with a draft proposal of the British government. He came with draft proposal of British government. on the framing of independent constitution to be adopted after World War II. In this draft proposal that British government sent through Sir Stafford Cripps, it it contained that Constitution of India means independent Constitution of India will be adopted after the World War II. But Muslim League rejected. Okay, why so? Because it was demanding another dominion. Okay, another country. So Muslim League rejected the proposal. Okay, so after that, in 1946, Constituent Assembly was constituted in November 1946 under the scheme formulated by the Cabinet Mission Plan. Okay, so in 1946 we made our Constituent Assembly in November 1946, and this was done under the scheme Cabinet Mission Plan. Okay, so Constituent Assembly was the result was formulated on the basis of Cabinet Mission Plan in 1946. Okay, before that, Stafford Cripps came in India in 1942, but his proposal, basically that proposal was sent by British government, so that proposal was declined or rejected by Muslim League. But in 1946, Constituent Assembly is now being framed, and this whole thing is happening under this scheme Cabinet Mission Plan. Okay, the Constituent Assembly was to be partly elected and partly nominated body. Okay, in Constituent Assembly, what we are seeing, in Constituent Assembly, all the members were not elected. Okay, and all the members were not nominated as well. Some members were elected, and same here for nominated as well. So it was partly elected and partly nominated body. Moreover, the members were to be indirectly elected by the members of the Provincial Assembly. Members were to be indirectly elected by the members of the Provincial Assembly, who themselves were elected on a limited franchise. So this question was asked in UPSC 2013. So basically, members of the Constituent Assembly were to be indirectly elected. They were not being directly elected by Indian people, but they were indirectly elected. By whom? By the members of provincial assemblies. Okay, and these provincial assemblies members were elected on the basis of limited franchise. Okay, franchise. So this is a good point, that Constituent Assembly was partly elected and partly nominated body. Basically, the provincial state member were nominated. Okay, and the members of members of the provinces were indirectly elected by the provincial assemblies members, and basically those members who were in provincial assemblies, they were also being elected on limited franchise. Okay, so after the election of members for provincial assemblies, these members were again electing the member of constituent assembly. So assembly comprised representative of all sector of Indian society: Hindu, Muslim, Sikhs, Parsis, Anglo Indian, Christian, SC, STs, including women of all these sections. Okay, so on 9th December in 1946, first meeting of this constituent assembly held. Okay, Muslim League boycotted the meeting. Okay, but no worries, meeting was successfully conducted, and Sachindra Sachindra Sinha made temporary president. French. Sorry, this is mistake. Okay, this is not Sachindra. This is Sachidananda. Sachidanand Sinha. Okay, Sachidanand Sinha was made temporary president. This was taken from the French practice. Okay, and on 11 December of 1946, 2 days after 9 December. Okay, so on 11 December of 1946, Rajendra Prasad was elected as the president of assembly. Similarly, both H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishna Machari. H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishna. H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishna Machari were elected as vice president of the assembly. So 9 December, first meeting held, and Sachidanand Sinha elected as temporary president. So after that, on 11 December 1946, Rajendra Prasad was elected as president of the assembly. Similarly, V.T. Krishnamachari and H.C. Mukherjee were elected as the vice presidents of assembly. Okay, so again 2 days later, we can see on 30th of December 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru moved the historic objective resolution. Objective resolution is nothing but philosophy of the constitution, basically the base of constitution on which the whole constitution will be framed. Okay, so on 30th December of 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru moved historic objective resolution. Okay, that is the philosophy of constitution structure in the assembly. On 22 January 1947, resolution adopted. On 3 June of 1947, Mountbatten Plan came to India. 3 June 1947. Basically, this is known for Mountbatten Plan. Okay, so Indian Independence Act of 1947, what made the provisions that assembly will be fully sovereign body. Assembly will be acting also as legislative body, means this assembly is working as legislative as well as the constituent assembly. Okay, the assembly became the first parliament of India. Okay, so these are some points, you have to remember all these points. Okay, so Indian Independence Act of 1947 provided that our assembly will be a sovereign body. Okay, and this assembly will be acting as a legislative body as well. So basically it was acting as a legislative body and constituent assembly on separate days. Okay, for some days it was acting as constituent assembly, for some days it was acting as legislative body. So likewise things were going on. Okay, and this constituent assembly became the first parliament of India. Okay, so whenever the assembly met as constituent body, it was chaired by Rajendra Prasad, and when this assembly met as legislative body, it was chaired by Ganesh Vasudev Mavlankar or G.V. Mavlankar. Okay, these two functions continued till 26th of November 1949. After that, making of constitution was over. So now let's go ahead. Basically, if we again see this point, it only conveys the message that the Constituent Assembly and the Legislative Assembly, they were basically the same body. Okay, they were acting for some days as legislative body, and for some days it was acting as legislative or constituent assembly where constitution were made. Okay, constituent body, when it was acting like a constituent body, it was chaired by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. On the other hand, when it was acting as a legislative body, it was chaired by G.V. Mavlankar. Constituent Assembly also performed these functions. It ratified India's membership of the Commonwealth in May 1949. It ratified India's membership of the Commonwealth in May 1949. It adopted the national flag on 22 July 1947. National anthem adopted on 24 January 1950. Same thing with national song as well. National song was adopted on 24 January 1950. It elected Dr. Rajendra Prasad as the first president on 24th of January in 1950. Okay, so on 24th January of 1950, these things are happening. Basically, we are adopting national anthem, adopting national song, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad being elected as first president of India on the same day, 24th of January 1940. Okay, national flag was adopted on 20th July 1947, and India's membership of Commonwealth, it was ratified in May 1949. Okay, so the constitution was adopted on 26th of November in 1949. The original constitution contained a preamble, 22 part, 395 article and 8 schedules. The preamble was enacted after the entire constitution was already enacted. Some provision of the constitution pertaining to citizenship, elections, provisional parliament, temporary and transitional provision, and short title contained in Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 60, 324, 366, 367, 379, 380, 388, 391, 392, 393 came into force on November 26, 1949 itself. Okay, so what we are talking is this constitution was adopted on November 26 in 1949, and this original constitution contained 22 parts, 395 articles, and 8 schedules. The preamble was enacted after the entire constitution was already enacted. And this is interesting. Means preamble was enacted later. The whole constitution was already been elected. So whole constitution was enacted, then after preamble was enacted. Okay. As we know, our constitution was enacted on 26th of January 1950, but some provision of the constitution were enacted on 26th of November in 1949 itself. They were related to citizenship, elections, provisional parliament, temporary and transitional provisions, saw title as well. These provisions are contained in Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 60, 324, 366, 367, 379, 380, 388, 391, 392, and 393. So, this is enough for today. Tomorrow, in next lecture, we will be talking about some major committees. Okay. So, I hope you guys are enjoying this lecture and you guys are doing well. Stay happy, stay tuned, stay safe, and achieve what you want to. Okay, thank you.